Hey everybody, some gadget guy here with a quick comparison video between the LG G3 and the LG G4. Now I'm not going to call this a showdown, fight for blood, do my little punching sound effects, because it should come as no surprise that the newer phone is better than the older phone. But what I really wanted to take a look at was the upgrade process from the G3 to the G4. I've gotten some questions from G3 owners if I think it is worth it for the monies to upgrade to LG's newest flagship. And if you guys have followed any of my videos in the past, you would know that I'm very conservative about recommending a year-to-year upgrade. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about the differences between these two phones, and maybe for some of my viewers out there, a year-to-year upgrade from the G3 to the G4 will make sense. Now, switching over to a loaner G3, just so that we can look at the actual build and design, these two devices are very similar. We're talking a very well-known LG design language here. The corners are just going to be a touch sharper on the G4 than on the G3, which feature more rounded edges around the chin and forehead of the device. The G4 screen, of course, now has a very subtle and very graceful taper to it. It's not as aggressive as the G Flex 2, and this is not a bendable phone, but it's probably the most aggressive design language change that we see moving up from the G3. Moving to the rear of both phones, I think it would be really easy for someone to confuse one of these devices for the other, unless you were really hip to your smartphone style language, especially on the plastic versions of both phones where they have this sort of brushed finish. I think the G3 has a slightly more matte finish than the G4. It's not like the G4 is glossy, but I think the G3 is just a little bit grippier, though I do like these diamond accents that adorn the back plate on the G4. Of course, one area where these two phones are not similar at all is in camera performance. Sure, they both have laser focus assistance, but the 1/3 inch sensor in the G3 cannot compete with the depth of field and background bokeh blur that we see on the 1/2 inch shooter on the G4. It's subtle, but I do like the updates to the image stabilization system on the G4. It gives it a little bit more wobble as you're moving around the frame, but while I've got shaky hands, it does a better job of compensating for my hand movements while shooting video. Both earpiece and rear speaker audio performance are pretty similar to my ears. I wouldn't say there's tremendous difference in either phone's approach to handling audio, though microphone performance on the G4 has been slightly better when we compare things like video playback. One of the things I think is interesting while we're talking about an updated display on the G4, this is the new IPS Quantum LCD panel, that when we're in manual mode and we set the screen brightness to 100%, to my eye, the G3 looks just a touch brighter. But the second we go outside under auto mode, the G4 just absolutely smokes it with a display that's much easier to read outdoors in sunlight. And it's definitely just a little bit contrastier, especially as we look at the bottom control panel here. As this bottom control bar runs up against the bezels, this is still very much black. It's almost OLED performance, whereas this is starting to become a dark gray on the G3. For all their similarities in terms of design, unfortunately, the battery in the G4 is different than the battery in the G3. We've got the BL53 versus the BL51. They look very similar, but the 53 is just a touch thicker, and when you try and cram it into the shell of the G4, it doesn't really seem to fit, so I have not tried powering up the G4 with the battery from the G3 just in case I were to break something. But ultimately, performance is one of the most important aspects in comparing these two phones for me. I really think that LG pushed a little too hard, a little too fast in pairing a Quad HD screen with the Qualcomm 801 series processor, which really wasn't designed to drive that many pixels on a display. In many ways for me, the upgrade from the G2 to the G3 came with a few more compromises than I really wanted to make. Sure, we got a return to a removable backplate and a swappable battery and micro SD card slot expansion, but when the G3 first launched, the G2 still felt like a smoother phone in terms of overall performance for me. Happily, a lot of those lags and stutters and twitches, especially now that we're rocking Lollipop on these two devices, and I really hope the G3 gets an update to 5.1 soon, and the G4 just walks away as a no compromises upgrade over the G3. I don't have any of that geek crankiness or any of that ennui. Everything that you like about the G3 has either been improved on the G4 or is just still here on the G4. So for those of you folks who have been asking me if the update from the G3 to the G4 makes sense, I can't directly answer that question. That's always going to come down to your actual usage and what features you care about most, but I can at least happily report that moving from the G3 to the G4 means you won't lose anything. And of course, I want to hear from you folks. What is your smartphone upgrade system starting to look like? Are you starting to upgrade yearly, or are you still sticking to more of a 2-year or possibly even 3-year plan for upgrading your phones to get the most life out of your smartphone investment? Drop me some comments down below, because those are the kinds of conversations I love getting into. As always, folks, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe for more comparisons like these, and I would not be able to continue producing on this channel if you all weren't out there sharing my videos on sites like Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus and the Reddit. So please keep bringing more cool people to the party, hit that thumbs up button, and I will catch you all on the next video.